You did it, Chicago. You did it. Finally, you did it. You broke your own record. Well, with a little bit longer than normal holiday weekend for Independence Day, Chicago broke its own record. Chicago managed to have 109 people that we know of get shot. 19 of those died. We've also got kids involved in that. I hate to make light of this, but these people don't take this serious. None of these people in charge in Chicago take this serious. Watch this.
After a 4th of July weekend that saw more than 100 people shot and almost 20 killed, including a woman and a 5-year-old at this home on South Woodlawn, the mayor and the police superintendent said Monday the city's response to gun violence must change.
What we really have to think about is the brazenness and the behavior of those who could walk into a home and see children and women and open fire on them.
Although he had issued statements and says he met privately with victims' families, this was Brandon Johnson's first public appearance to address the situation. One way the city plans to address some of the suffering is by opening an emergency center here at Fosco Park, where residents can come to sign up for city services, including mental health services. Father Michael Flager has been fighting gun violence for almost 5 decades as pastor of St. Sabina Parish. He says the city's approach needs to change.
Obviously, they're not working if over 100 people are shot. We've got to go back to the drawing table. Whatever we're doing is not working. What do we need to do differently?
Sam Castro, the Institute for Nonviolent Chicago, says gun violence is not only a problem in the neighborhoods where it is common. He agrees with the superintendent that it is the whole city that must be involved.
It's an everybody approach. It's not just because it'll be unfair to say that law enforcement didn't do what they were supposed to do. Not at all. I think it's an approach for everybody to come together.
And Flager says he thinks the process needs to start not in the streets, but in the schools.
I do not understand why we don't teach in the curriculum in our schools, from preschool to senior year high school, conflict resolution, the danger of guns, peacemaking.
Flager says he's working with Chicago public schools and the Catholic schools to make that happen.
These people blame every single other person. You have your police chief responsible for this, the mayor directly to his left, blaming everybody else. Now, some of them, granted, and I give them credit for this, talk about the community. But you know what they don't talk about? No one talks about this. No one, including the little priest over here. We don't even want to get into that discussion. No one's talking about parents. They talk about the community. They talk about schools. Oh, let's get the schools to do this. Let's teach them the dangers of guns. How about we teach them the dangers of bad people having guns? How about we teach them that having a positive mentor, not 50-year-old Rodney down the street slinging dope, that's not the guy you want to model your future after. Heck, he's lucky to be 50, right? In Chicago, that's not who your mentor should be. You're letting your kid be led around and trained and taught how to act by street thugs, by garbage, by trash. How about we have something that talks about parents? Nobody talks about parents. You want to see who the mayor's blaming? Check this out.
So we cut off the pipeline of boys between the ages of 10 and 19 being either victims or the perpetrators. So, yeah, it is personal. Black death has been unfortunately accepted in this country for a very long time. We had a chance 60 years ago to get at the root causes, and people mocked President Johnson. And we ended up with Richard Nixon.
That is the picture of a person who lied on their resume. When you have a job opening for, say, an engineer or something like that, and you have a guy who flips fries, who turns fries or drops fries, whatever you call them at McDonald's, apply for the engineering job and tell you he got his degree at MIT or somewhere. That's what this guy is. Lied on a resume, got a job, and now when he gets it, he's like, oh crap, what do I do now? This guy, like an absolute fool, blames somebody from 56 years ago. Takes no accountability for his actions, his office's actions, nobody, no policies, none of the failed policies. He wants more money, but he's talking about all these other things that happened 56 years ago. Talking about, he's giving praise to one of the most well-known racists besides Joe Biden out there. Joe Biden, whose friend and mentor, Robert Byrd, was in the actual Klan, literally in the Klan. He's talking about Lyndon B. Johnson. Lyndon B. Johnson is notorious, and you don't have to dig for this information. He's a notorious racist. He called black people the N-word in every variation you could imagine. He would literally use a different pronunciation of the N-word depending on what constituents he was talking to. If he was talking to somebody in the Deep South, he would call them an N-word in a certain tone. If it was on the East Coast, N-word in a different tone. If it was in D.C., N-word in a different tone altogether. This guy was a notorious racist. And this dummy right here thinks that because Richard Nixon beat Lyndon B. Johnson early on in his career, that somehow or another, that's why 109 people got shot in Chicago in the last 4 days under his administration. And that's why we have this problem that we have now. Because Richard Nixon beat a racist. These people are inherently stupid. I know we talk about it all the time, and we talk about how these people purposely do things. This is not purposely done by this mayor. This mayor truly believes that a world-renowned racist in Lyndon B. Johnson is his savior because he was a Democrat. This guy he's stupid. This is not a game he's playing. He's not faking this to act like he wants something. He thinks Lyndon Johnson wasn't a racist, just like I'm sure he thinks Joe Biden wasn't a racist. Google is free. Google is your friend, not mine, and Google will still tell you that all of your heroes are racists. But yet you want to blame the other people just because it's a different party. I don't think I've ever seen somebody in the immediate present time blame somebody from 5 generations prior for the problem he's having doing a crappy job. This is amazing to me. He went on to state that he was going to be asking for more federal resources to support communities reeling from the carnage. Called upon community members to look out for each other and to come forward with the names of the perpetrators. First of all, we know that will never happen. Nobody's coming forward. Nobody. Every time there's gang-related shootings like this is not a mass shooting. They're saying, 3 of the shootings that we had out of these 109 were mass shootings. Really? Do you think that you're striking more fear in the hearts of people by saying, we had 3 mass shootings, or the fact that you had 109 people shot? These are gang-related shootings. And you're blaming every single other person out there, and you're talking about community leaders giving names up? These people aren't giving names up. They never do. There's never, if the suspect is not caught at the crime scene, they are never, ever caught. Nobody's giving them up. And guess what? No mention of parents. He goes on to say our city needs each and every one of us to lean and look out for our neighbors, to look out for our children. Let me be emphatically clear. This is a choice. It's a choice to kill. The choice to kill women, a choice to kill children, a choice to kill the elderly. These are choices that the offenders made and they calculated. Yeah, you're right. It's not the guns. You actually got that right. You're anti-gun and you talk about banning guns and getting rid of guns and we got a gun problem. And you literally finally land on the actual problem of the people doing this, and you still can't figure it out. You literally have the answer in your mouth, on your tongue, yet you still can't talk about it. You accidentally mention it. You still don't look within. You don't want to talk about the families. Why don't you want to talk about the families? Because you need to get reelected. If you talk about how we have poor parenting, when you know that you have 109 people that were shot, you got to figure out if 109 people shot, probably more than that, right? There's some that were not reported, some that probably are just dealing with the bullet hole in a foot or something like that. You probably have 100 families involved in the actual shooting. You've got these families covering up. The ones who aren't coming forward are hiding the people who did all this shooting. So you can't talk about parenting because you're talking about the people hiding the shooters in Chicago. So you purposely stay away from it. You know parenting is the problem. but you can't mention it because you're afraid you won't get reelected. Can you imagine how many people would be on these crooked politicians' sides if just once one of them stepped forward and quit worrying about a handful of dirtbag voters and worried about the community as a whole? I can promise you there's way more people that are better people who live in Chicago who would vote for this man if he talked about how the families need to start familying harder than he is going to piss off the people who are hiding the shooters in all of this violence that he had over the weekend. But this guy is truly stupid. He is a stupid person. Again, he's trying to lay blame at the feet of somebody who was elected 56 years ago and acting like the savior was a racist who got creative calling black people the N-word.
God save the Queen, man.
I'm sorry, I thought this was America.